welcome to the last contextual event of our online program, and it will be dedicated to hybrid event formats in the context of social distancing and how can we as literary managers and festival organizers kind of connect and marry online and offline, and to make it to our benefit and to the comfort of our audience. And I would like to introduce you to three speakers who we have now in this round. Lyndsey,
Festival Program and Commissions Manager at
Cheltenham Festival. Hi, Lyndsey. And we also have Swati Roy, the Festival Director of Bookaroo, India's first children's literature festival. Hi, Swati. Very thankful that you can be here with us despite your sickness. It's really nice of you that you could join us, and I hope you will get better soon. And the third speaker is František, Director of BRAK Festival from Slovakia. Hi, František. So the order of this session will be the following: that I will ask each of you to present your inputs to the topic for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we will go into the group sessions and group discussions and continue the discussions there regarding your presentations and some insights and keynotes. So I would like to start with Lyndsey and ask you to share your thoughts on the topic first. And would you like to also share a presentation with us, or?
Yes, I think your colleague is kindly going to run the presentation for me.
Aha, perfect.
Play the audio on it. Yeah.
Probably Anastasia then. 1 second. Let's check if she's here. Anastasia, if you're hearing us.
I'm not Anastasia, I am Lilia, but I have to say that if Anastasia will join us, that she couldn't share the presentation because she is fifth member in the background. Nada, could you please share a presentation of Swati? Thanks.
Of Lyndsey, yeah.
Of Lyndsey, sorry.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I think there was just probably it got lost somewhere on the way, but I have your presentation now and I'm opening it. I will be ready to share it in just a second. Let me Cheltenham.
I think I got it.
Let me just open it and then we can check if this is the correct one. Okay. I'm starting to share my screen then. Let's see if it works. I think my my internet got worse by day 3. Somehow it got too exhausted of all the work I made it do for me.
You wore it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's loading, but yeah, is this the right one, Lyndsey?
That's perfect.
Okay, great. Yeah, no problem. Just tell me when should I switch to the next slide.
Of course. So hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here. My name is Lyndsey Fineran. I'm the Programme and Commissions Manager for Cheltenham Festival, Cheltenham Literature Festival here in the UK. And I'm going to talk to you about how we pivoted to a hybrid edition in October 2020. So if you go to the next slide, please.
I'm really sorry. I think I have some difficulties with switching slides with this because it's on Google Drive, and I'm not really sure how to switch slides. 1 second, maybe I open it just in another.
Okay.
Or I download it to my computer real quick. I'm really sorry, Lyndsey. I was not prepared to be a technical host. And
no, well, I know what's on the next slide. Perhaps I could start talking through.
Maybe yes, if you could just continue, and I will really quickly prepare myself to.
Of course. So what you'll see on the next slide is just a bit of context for what Cheltenham looks like in a normal year. So Cheltenham is the oldest literature festival in the world. We were established in 1949. So we had our big 70th anniversary edition in October 2019. So we're very grateful to get that in before the world shut down. So October 2020 should have been our 71st edition. We're a very big festival. So we build a tented festival village in a public garden in the centre of Cheltenham, and all our events happen within tents, ranging from quite a small venue at 80 seats right up to our biggest venue, which is 1,500 seats. And then we have an external venue that we can rent for one-off events for around 2,300 people. An average year will see around 140,000 ticket buyers coming to the festival, with lots of other free activities happening on site. So we don't charge an entrance fee to the festival site itself, and people just buy tickets to those individual sessions that they go to. Every year we'll feature around 1,000 writers from all over the world coming for the events, and we present events on a huge range of things. So obviously a lot of fiction and poetry and the more literary elements of the programme, but we'd say that pretty much every category of a bookshop is represented in the programme. So history, philosophy, travel, cookery, arts, you name it, it's there, as well as a very vibrant children's festival for young people and families, and we have educational programmes as well. Nata, how are we doing with the slides?
Yes, yes. No, it's actually ready. I have to leave you, and my colleague Anastasia will enter, and she has your presentation ready. So okay. We are ready to share it.
Thank you.
Would love to visit the festival. I hope.
We'd love to have you. Hopefully once we can travel again, you'd be very welcome. Hi, Anastasia. There we go. Thank you so much. If you go to the next slide. So yes, I think I've probably covered this just by speaking aloud there. So World's Oldest Literature Festival, very big festival, we're a very key fixture in the UK. Publishing calendar, like in most cultures, the autumn period is very busy period in the publishing calendar. So lots of literary big hitters will publish in, August, September, October. A lot of celebrity memoirs running up to the Christmas book buying period. But we like to think of Cheltenham as really sort of taking stock of the literary year to date. So all the kind of brilliant debut voices that have been launched, the issues, the conversations that have been happening over the year, as well as looking forward to the next year of publishing and books. So around 500 events, tented festival village in the centre of town, ranging from 80 seats up to 1,500, but lots of free activities, food traders, bookstores, etc. happening on those grounds as well. Lots of tickets sold, 9,000 school children. We're very passionate about education and inspiring that next generation of book lovers. And lots of free activities as well. We're really passionate about breaking down barriers, making sure that arts and culture are accessible to all. And then obviously the festival is 10 days and it's a big event every October, but we have year-round educational outreach projects running as well. If you go to the next slide, please. So all of that to say is that none of that is remotely COVID friendly. Lots of people packed into a festival site, lots of international travel, very busy venues. So we had to think really long and hard about how we would redesign the festival for the COVID age. To give you a bit of context, obviously COVID really broke out in March last year. And I think for spring festivals, it was very easy and obvious and probably the only decision to pivot entirely online. We were in October, so we had a little bit more time to think and remodel and plan. And we felt that things were going to get a little bit better here in the UK over the summer. And by being in very early autumn, we were really hopeful that we could make some safe return to physical events. And there were various reasons for this. And again, I'm full of admiration for colleagues who produce digital festivals. That was not a skill any of us had a year ago. But we were worried about a few things. We were worried by sort of being 6 months into the pandemic that people might be fatigued with digital. We knew that we were missing, the magic of being there in the room together, hearing applause, hearing laughter, having authors be able to speak to each other face to face, rather than in Zoom boxes. And we'd heard, again, not all, but we'd heard that book sales had been low through some digital events, and we see ourselves as being integral for supporting writers and publishers. And after a tough year, we wanted to make sure we could sell lots of authors' books. And we were also mindful of the sustainability of the event sector. Cheltenham Literature Festival sits within Cheltenham Festivals. We support a huge network of freelance event professionals, technicians, event managers, etc. And they hadn't worked for 6 months, 7 months. And so we really wanted to sort of inject a bit of hope and a bit of optimism into the live event sector. So this is what we did. If you go to the next slide, please, Anastasia. So we went with a hybrid model, and this is how we did the live elements. So obviously we have a very big and very complex program, so we honed it right down. So the normal 500 events went down to about 160, and we performed 100 of these live on stages. So we didn't build a tented festival village last year, 2020. Obviously it's very expensive and the infrastructure requires a lot of planning. Instead, we pivoted and we used 3 fixed venues in the town that were standing empty because the events industry had been decimated during COVID. So we asked a lot of authors to travel, to be with us and do their events on our stages, and we could sell tickets to a socially distanced crowd. As you see there, we had to reconfigure all our venues, make sure that there was socially distanced seating. We asked audience members to wear masks. We had to think about every single stage of the audience members' journey. So we had to, rather than doing physical tickets, we did digital tickets that could be scanned. We had hand sanitizer at every entrance point of the venue. We had one-way systems. We had ventilation, scheduling, deep cleaning between sessions of all the chairs and all the venues. Really thinking very hard. I mean, this is all kudos to our brilliant operations team, thinking really hard about every single step that an audience will go through through our venues. And likewise for the authors as well, we had to think about how they would get into the festival, how they would safely sign their books, how we could even do sound checks. Obviously you have to get very close to someone's face to attach a mic. So every single step had to be really carefully thought out. And all these physical events that happen live on our stages were also professionally filmed and broadcast on a stream to a digital audience. And I should say for book sales, normally, as most book festivals, the event would finish, the author would go to a signing tent, they would meet lots of their fans, they would sign. Obviously, we couldn't do that safely this year, so we asked authors to arrive quite early to the festival. They pre-signed their books, and we made sure those signed copies were available in the book tent afterwards. So once the audience went through the venue in the one-way system, they could also exit out through the bookshop and safely buy a copy of that author's signed books. You go to the next slide, please. And this is what the digital looked like. I think it's got a little bit scrambled there on the slide, but everything that was professionally filmed on the stages was broadcast for free online, and everything was free at the point of that stream. Now, obviously, everything that happened on our stages involved authors who could travel safely to us. So that was UK-based authors. So we also supplemented these live events with pre-recorded digital content. So this was we did a series called The World is Waiting, which we filmed with international writers, people like Tayari Jones and Sayaka Murata, Marilyn Robinson. And we did some of these in collaboration with international literature festivals. So we asked, Sydney Writers Festival to support us with an Australian writer, Toronto with the brilliant novelist Michael Crummy, the Tokyo Festival for Sayaka Murata. So we could really connect and create some really dynamic conversations. And we did this as well with, we also didn't want to be ableist. We knew that a lot of authors, even if they were UK based, if they had any health issues, they might not be able to travel. So we had systems in place to either pre-record events with them or to stream them directly into a venue. So we had some instances where you'd have a live panel or a live conversation, but you might have one person appearing on screen live on that stage. So quite a few different iterations to make the festival and the programme happen, because we were very passionate that it wasn't just the big names, that we were still supporting debut writers, that we were still having the same breadth and depth and diversity of the programme, particularly if it was the first time people were interacting with Cheltenham. If you were a worldwide audience, we wanted to put our best foot forward and make sure that the programme people were watching was reflective of what you would see in a normal year. And if you go to the next slide, please. And we specially built a microsite, and we really wanted to communicate the feeling of the live festival. So even though we couldn't build our festival site, we wanted the microsite to reflect that. So as you see on the screen there, you could almost kind of visit the stages. So you could visit the box office to buy your stream ticket. You could visit a bookshop to buy your book. You could, and there's various kind of sponsor areas, children's areas for activities, etc. And so really, that was to give a sense of it being a festival, of being a happening. It wasn't just sort of floating off in cyberspace. We wanted to give it a real sense of identity and character. If you go to the next slide, please. And so we also felt it was very important to have catch-up viewing opportunities. Again, because we had a very international audience, we wanted to make sure people could watch across time zones. And so while everything went for free to on the stream, we built a catch-up viewing player, which allowed catch-up viewing for a one-off £20 subscription fee, and that allowed you to watch the whole festival back up until the end of the year. And we also forged, because we were capturing so much content for the first time, we could also work with partners like Sky Arts and Marquee TV to amplify those sessions further. So Marquee bought a package from us and hosted it on their site. And then Sky Arts, which last year went free to view, they also sponsored a package, which they are even now still kind of rerunning on their channels. So that's helping further amplification of our content and our brand. Next slide, please. We want to make sure that younger visitors weren't missing out either. As I said, normally we'll have thousands of school children visiting the festival, which we knew wasn't going to be possible this year. A lot of schools had closed, a lot of teachers had so much in their plate, just trying to pivot to home learning. Adding in a festival would have been probably a step too far. So instead we did a create your own festival pack. So we packaged up all the family content, which was a mix of draw-alongs, author conversations, a lot of pre-filmed content, but also some physical things. I mean, we've heard in the conference in the last few days about how children, have so much time on screens as it is with home learning, that those extra elements are really important. So we sent out bunting, we had a books quiz, we had comic worksheets as well, just to make sure we were sort of delivering some of the offline experience too. And then when we went back into lockdown number 3 here in the UK in sort of January, February time, we had that pack ready. So we reissued it for free to help with the next batch of home learning, because by that point parents were tired and they needed some new resources. Next slide, please. And of course, book sales. This was a key motivator for us, trying to do a good amount of physical events. But also we wanted to support the online book selling operation. So Waterstones are our festival bookseller. So they did, as you can see that lady there with the mask, they did do a pop-up bookshop in one of our physical venues. And then we also worked with them to do a Cheltenham special sort of landing page on their website, which was dedicated to authors appearing at the festival. And so for those audience who are watching online, they could click through to the dedicated Cheltenham bookshop and buy their copy that way. And I think between the physical and the online, we sold around 2,500 books over the 10 days. And those links remained live for catch-up viewing as well. Next slide, please. And these are our results. So we sold over 7,000 in-person tickets. That felt like a big achievement. Obviously, it's a huge reduction. Normally we 140,000, but in a year where a lot of things had just been digital, it did feel like a huge achievement. Our views are very strong, so we reached just shy of 500,000 views. And what was very interesting was around 200,000 of those were live at the time of the festival, but 300,000 were on the catch-up service. And this was sort of a pleasant surprise for us. I think you think of festivals of these sort of magical things that pop up and they happen and they use the buzz of those 10 days of when they're on. But it just showed how much appetite there was for, good quality, well curated intellectually rich content. We were mindful that obviously by this point we were back in a second lockdown in the winter, so we did have quite literally a captive audience, but I think it did show there's a real appetite there. I think even this coming year, when life hopefully will be more normal in autumn, people are still bunkering down at that time of year. People are still staying at home more in the evenings, and I think being able to fit sessions and fit content around their lives, you know, watching a session as you're cooking dinner, sitting down to watch something rather than Netflix, we can still see the appetite for that. So it's something we'd like to continue with. And we had around 9,000 people sign up for that service. And of course, it was a good income stream for us. In a year where we didn't have as much ticket income, the subscription revenue was a big help to us. And in terms of new audience reach and breaking down barriers, 40% of our audience were new. And we hit 167 countries, which felt very exciting to us in terms of reaching a broader and more diverse audience. As I mentioned, we sold 2,500 books between the in-person online bookshops, which felt very, again, felt like a big achievement and a key way to support authors and publishers in a very tough year. Around 180 schools downloaded the Create Your Own Festival pack. So normally we'll have around 9,000 children joining the festival site, and this reached 32,000 children. And then what was a really nice reward at the end of the year is we won Event of the Year at the Booksellers Future Book Awards, which recognises innovation in the sector. And this was really heartening because I think Cheltenham, with it being such a long-running festival and the oldest festival, you know, we're not the youngest and we're not the sexiest, but I think this showed that we really do, we are really at the forefront of the field and continue to push forward, and we don't rest on our laurels. You go to the next slide, please. This is a short video. I hope it plays. It's Andrew Hagen talking about the festival.
We just can't manage with the video now. Probably we can make a link to the chat. We can put a link to the chat. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
And then the final slide was just going to say what we're thinking next. So we think in terms of lockdown restrictions easing here in the UK, we are planning for a full return to the full physical model come October. But what we'd really like to do is carry forward a lot of these digital learnings. Here we go, yeah. Because we feel like it's a really exciting time for the festival in terms of global audiences, but also in terms of the writers that we can involve in the programme without physically travelling to us. And with this in mind, we're going to launch a theme called Read the World, which is going to launch this October and will run for 3 years. And we hope there'll be lots of very rich international partnerships and collaborations as part of that. So I feel I should just hand over to the two brilliant other speakers on the panel. But yeah, please watch this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyndsey. I'm sorry it took me a while to also come back. Somehow there is technical difficulty with hoping to share the screen, but I enjoyed also watching your presentation just as a participant. And I also would like to ask you to come later to the group discussions that we will have afterwards, to also bring some of your expertise and some of the points that you mentioned already in your presentation also to these group discussions. Okay, then I will hand over the word to Swati Roy with the Bookaroo Festival, and I can share your presentation if you would like me to.
Did Anastasia share with you today's?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank
yeah. You. Okay, then I start sharing my.
So hi. No, this is not the new one. Sorry. Sorry, Nata. Mine has constantly been a work in progress. I sent one today.
Let me just check it.
I'll just start talking maybe.
Yeah, start talking. I will handle it and start sharing you the actual presentation.
Thank you so much, Lyndsey. That was such a fantastic presentation. Mine is not going to be a patch on that, to be honest. What I'm presenting today is essentially my learnings, what we have been able to actually learn in the hard way in the last year, once we realized that we weren't going to be able to do our main festival the way we do it. So just to give you a brief introduction, Bookaroo is a children's literature festival which started in 2008. It has a history behind it that, my partner and I used to run a bookstore. We started a bookstore for children in 2003. And that is as real as it gets, as physical as it gets, that the bookstore was the birthplace of the festival. So we started the bookstore in 2003 and started doing sessions inside the bookstore and realized that, we were soon getting sort of the space was too little. And by 2008, we decided to expand and go into a bigger space. So we went out not as the bookstore, but we created a name for the festival called Bookaroo. The name of the bookstore is Eureka. And we went ahead and did the festival. Now, for the 13 years that we have been in operation, we have been able to, I think, Nata, I'm sorry, getting distracted because I think this is not the presentation. Shall I just try?
I'm afraid this is the last one. Actually, this is the last one that we have. So maybe then you can.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me just see if I can do it. So I'm supposed to do entire screen and share. So can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So yeah, so the festival started in 2008, and and so today when I was invited to speak about to choose a topic, I chose this topic primarily because I wanted to understand what the world is doing and how what we have done up until now can be a stepping stone to the next step. So like you can see on the top left-hand corner, that is the logo of the festival. But in the last year, we changed the logo to create something called Bookaroo Lit House. Now, Bookaroo Lit House was a safe space that we created on our website, which had 4 rooms in it, like a storytelling room, an art and craft room, exactly the way the festival is held otherwise, where, a large venue is carved out into smaller spaces where specific events are held. So the hope that we had at the beginning of the pandemic was that we will continue to do events in those rooms and continue to keep the flame burning, so to speak, of those familiar things that children have been coming to the festival for all these years. However, right at the beginning, I'm saying that we faced a problem, because that was the time that the online schooling started and all of that. So while there was a novelty element in the beginning and we were getting a lot of participation, it was kind of waning. And I was also getting messages from parents, etc., that go slow, let the classes get over, then we can start. And I knew that we were kind of competing. There was a competing space that we were in. So the impact of the COVID on physical events, therefore, I'm just putting forward my learnings, is that it is now clear that as event managers, we need to reinvent ourselves to continue giving the same experience to audience in our respective fields. This comes from the fact that while we were doing online sessions, I realized that there was a much larger scope. And, even the pandemic was dipping at one point. So we just thought that while the online thing is on, we might be able to have collaborations across India to be able to have smaller events happening there, which could be then broadcast on or streamed, as all the other speakers have been talking about. This picture over here is basically to give you an idea of the look and feel of the festival. So this is the kind of thing where people are tapping their feet, or they start singing along with this is just one venue. It's called the Kahani tree, or the storytelling tree. So under the storytelling tree, at every half hour, some speaker comes and tells a story, and it could be with music, without music, some performance, some acting. And that's the feel that they get. And this, no way was I able to replicate online. So there had to be a hybrid format that we were constantly thinking about. I'm sorry, there are no surprises. We haven't been able to find that format to do it, but just letting you know the vision that we had. So basically the idea of hybrid events that all of you know is that both audiences should get the same experience and simultaneously. Now, so we understood that parents were very worried about having a safe place. We understood that if we were to do an online and a hybrid thing, that it would be definitely more profitable, because a large amount of our money goes in the travel, in the putting up of authors, in the looking after of the authors in terms of, local travel and local, sightseeing and, evening events, etc. Then the volunteers, then the setting up of the venue. We all know that, but I'm just repeating because I did the presentation before I met all of you. And of course, we also understood about new audience. This is something I'd like to, touch upon. India is a vast country, and not everybody is capable of going to, events such as this. So what we realized when we were doing the online events, which incidentally we did 71 online events, 4 of which were hybrid. And these were not on a festival scale. These were individual sessions, but we kept on branding it as our festival so that, the brand was still alive and relevant to the audiences. So honestly speaking, we were able to even reach villages where the festival couldn't go otherwise, because the format of the festival is such that we go with 25 speakers, some of them from that local region, some from far off, and some from international authors. So 25 when we are traveling, and about 50 to 70 when we are in Delhi itself, which is where I'm based. So new audiences that came in when we were doing the online events was phenomenal, because we could go to a special needs school where the teachers were sitting with the students and helping, which is very far off, who could never come to Delhi or to the other cities. We could go to a village, as I said, which is completely inaccessible to who do not have access to such a place. We went to even a small community of students or children of rehabilitated, whose parents have been rehabilitated from some profession that they were in, which was not nice. So, we were able to therefore reach out to various communities that were otherwise totally, separated from such an event, or such an activity. Because for us in India, I don't know about the other countries, books means reading, means getting through in exams and doing well in life. So reading for pleasure is a very big deal here. Then, of course, we also realized when we were doing it, because we were approaching sponsors and we were approaching grant authorities, that we could, if we did it in a more concerted way, we were in a better position to give them more data about who was coming from where. To be honest, we felt that even the sponsorship, the world of sponsors was also not ready for recalibrating themselves to support a festival like this. Everybody was sort of, bobbing up and down in this, sea of uncertainty, trying to figure out, which one is going to work, what is going to work, and should literature be such a big deal at this time? Just have a couple of storytelling sessions and get it over with. Just keep everyone happy. So at least that's the feeling I got for the children's literature segment. And of course, as I said, more accessible. This I say more accessible. Even within Delhi, when we do a festival, several people cannot come. Several teachers cannot come. Then special needs students cannot come. So we felt that we could go out to them. But unfortunately, because we did not have enough funds, we could not expand to that extent. But I see scope. Now we have quite a bit of learning. And after this, this program that I'm attending, I am, learning a lot of things. And while we were planning whatever we planned, I realized that for every event, no matter how small or big the event is, of course, when we start planning big. And for us, big means, like I was telling in another session, the biggest one that we have had up until now is when Lord Jeffrey Archer spoke, So there, I think we had about 120 to 150 children. And when I say 120 to 150 children, all our sessions were registered. So that was the email ID number. So now how many people are watching from the home, we don't know, but just to let you know. So plan is something that we had to do for every session, irrespective of, who the author is, who the illustrator is. In the process of hybrid events, which we tried hard, was to find the venues and collaborators. You see, Bookaroo has traveled all across the country and found some fabulous venues to hold the festival in. So it could be an abandoned factory, which is now being converted into an art center, or this fantastic building called the Mill Owners Building in Ahmedabad, or we had the National Museum in Calcutta, or we just had a very large school in Kashmir. So all these venues are the collaborators who we have been in touch with them to be the hybrid venues for the events when we eventually do. We haven't done, so honestly speaking, this is all under conversation, and nobody's ready yet in here to take it to that large scale. The other thing we realized was, which I asked somebody before in another session, was coaching the speaker, whether it was a pre-recorded video or whether it was for the D-Day. Coaching the speaker was a very tall order for us for some reason. We are just not used to speaking, as you can see from me also. We're not used to speaking on screen the way, these kind of programs should have. Because early on, I realized the fight was not so much about the content as much as it was about the production value. The production value has to be very slick, because now you're in the open market. Nobody knows that Bookaroo really takes good care of the speakers, and they know every hour is mapped, and they know what they're going to do. Now it is about everybody can put up a program and put up a show, and you are competing on a different playing field. So therefore the next point about employing tech savvy staff, training ourselves also, then having a great moderator compare, because it is no longer something that we have actually been away from, kept ourselves away from consciously, that it is not a show, it is a very intimate festival. Even if there are 100 children in the room, the volunteers room, or wherever the grounds, the volunteers, the author, ourselves, our team, we would always make everybody feel comfortable and all. But when you're in an impersonal medium such as this, online, and even if there was a hybrid event, even then they are so far away. I'll give you an example. We did a book launch in a bookshop, where the people who did I'll just show you this is the picture. The picture on the right is the book launch. The gentleman in the black t-shirt is actually doing a performance, a little portion out of the book he performed as a skit. So this was the number of people who were here, but the people on screen just did not enjoy it. And I know that's because we didn't have 3 cameras, we didn't have that kind of lighting, we didn't have the wherewithal to do that. But I know there is scope. I know that it can be done, provided those elements of having some funding to be able to support that, and provided that we do it in a consistent way, and therefore again back to funding. So that on the left you will see the Japan Foundation approached us in the month of February to say that they wanted to commemorate the 10 years of the tsunami. And so how could we do it? So we were back in the bookshop, where the event happened in the bookshop. There was a small audience in the bookshop, but it was transmitted, it was broadcast to about 8 to 10 schools. And at a time we had so many children. And funnily, the pandemic, though it was at its peak in Delhi at that time, those places where it was telecast, it was not. So those children out there were sitting in groups, but we were here sitting far away from each other, 10 people with masks and all of that. So that again is a peculiar situation because of the pandemic. But so that was one kind of a thing. And the third one that you see at the bottom was a place called Gangtok in Sikkim, which is in the northeastern part of India. The organizers, and this is not us, they have invited us to do this. So the organizers had a full offline event. They had kind of blocked an entire area of the city to have book fairs and book stalls and activity cubicles and things like that. And Bookaroo was the one which was doing the literature event where you meet the author. So as you can see, there were about 100 children in each session, and we did it over 3 days. And the process was that, we were doing it from various cities. I was in Delhi, the speaker was in Chennai, the technical person was in another town, and the children were all over here. And so this was the closest to doing a hybrid event in that sense. But there is major scope to do it. I understand that. The other thing that I wanted to bring back over here is the close coordination that we have to do between the two types of audiences. This I realized because of the smallish events that we have done. And finally, about keeping the sponsors' interests in mind. So how do you ensure, because in an offline festival, sponsors have various other ways of, or some ways that we have got used to them promoting themselves, the backdrop or an announcement here, or in the break coming and doing something. But what you do in an online event, we are still not familiar with that. That is something that we have to keep in mind for the process, as I said. So here was the Bookaroo experience, and sorry. Sorry, I'm audible, right? Okay, sorry, I thought I just got carried away. And then the other factor that I wanted to bring in over here, which from a children's literature point of view, which I think are some of the drawbacks of online and hybrid both, but then it's not in our hands. I mean, it's the situation which has created this, is the fact about inclusivity, which we discussed earlier also. Because the essence of the festival is such that it is inclusive. It allows everybody to come in. It does not differentiate between audiences even when we are seated together. And one of the takeaways from the festival, therefore, is that we have team building happening, or people coming back later and saying how happy they are that their child was given an opportunity in a space where otherwise it is also competitive. And that we've even had feedback, like some schools which are not mainstream schools have come back and said, we've actually started having a question answer session in the assembly time in the morning, because we did not realize that children can be allowed to speak. I mean, maybe it's very peculiar to India, but I just wanted to share that experience. Then there are situations where children just get up suddenly and want to say something to the author. And our team is such, I mean to say the community of authors as well, is such that they will never say no to anything. So, while the volunteers are there to handhold, they'll always give everyone importance to stand up. So I feel that those kind of personal touch and which is part of growing up, which is part of, making a child imagine, triggering off their, thinking processes, all that is going to get majorly affected by this situation. I am hoping that we will be able to find a solution to that, but I just needed to bring this to the table, that these are things we have to keep in mind. The art wall, for instance, we have something called the art wall, which I shall show you in the next slide.
And Swati, can you also make a slowly conclusion, maybe like in 2 minutes?
Yeah, just here. So this was what one child said, that it was courageous of the people who came to come to. It shows how resilient, how ready we are to battle this challenge, and many more to come. Somebody who came to one of the smallish hybrid events that life is throwing at us. I look forward to many more such sessions in the future and many more fruitful discussions. And then this is something that I wanted to say, that we have something called the doodle wall, which is, so it's a 20-feet wall where this is one of the very famous illustrators of India, Swati Roy. He's doing art and children are with him together. Afterwards, they become sort of, they separate and create something together. But this is what we finally did, or are going to do perhaps in the future. And the sad thing is, the last picture that I'd like to show, I don't want it to happen, but is this what we are looking at in the future? That the child is sitting alone, even though the session is happening in the other room. So her parents did not want her to be as close to the speaker as we thought we could. So she sat away from everybody, still watching it on a computer, while there were about 10 children in the other room listening to the author directly. So this is where I would like to stop, and I just hope I've been able to explain the pros and cons of a children's literature festival going hybrid. I have tremendous admiration for the Cheltenham Festival. I've connected with them privately also, so there's a lot of learning there. But yes, one important thing that I'd like to say, even in this, the sliver of hope and the happiness that I see is that now the festivals can be without borders, and we can actually truly collaborate, not just, go to an arts council and say, I want this author from that country and that author from that country. Now we can actually perhaps do a more long-term thing across and more create something more, not just that 1 hour of whatever we do in a festival situation. Maybe it can be more long-term. And of course, the biggest thing is that if we could get children as audiences from other countries, nothing like it, then that then we are truly borderless, and truly then literature has traveled. We can say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Swati. And one can really see your passion and your dedication to the through your presentation and through your words. And I think there were a lot of very insightful also things that you said about childhood and literature and how the online influences experience in literature while being a child. So thank you for that. And I would like then to pass on the word to Director of BRAK Festival, František Malík. And you're already starting to share your presentation with us. Perfect. Okay, then the floor is. Switch on your mic, or you didn't say anything yet?
Switch this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, do you see the presentation right now? I can't see if you are nodding. So do you see?
We're nodding, yes.
Okay, so because I'm full screen. So first of all, it's a great honor to be in the room, or virtual room, with such a great festivals, with the oldest one, with the children, with the previous one. I think that every kind of a festival and every special festival here has his own history, has his own challenges. And I just, when I was thinking, I was really thinking hard what to present here and how to present the festival. I just realized that maybe I don't think that we came in something special through the festival, but how it affects the life of the cultural worker, as I call myself. And because I'm working, as I will tell you later, in a cultural field, more in a literature field. So I was thinking about to just tell you the story about the COVID of 2020 throughout my experience with this. So my name is František Malík. I live in Bratislava. As I mentioned, that I call myself a cultural or literary worker, because I work for literary professionals such as writers and translators and editors and graphic designers and so on, all sort of fields. And we are organizing around 140 events throughout the year. So it was a big disaster when the COVID came to our life. I will tell you how we deal with the COVID throughout a couple of main activities. What I'm working on throughout the year. So the first of all, it is a BRAK, as you mentioned, and all know from my CV, the BRAK Festival, which is right now it's the 8th year of this festival. We started in 2013. Then we organized a festival like, which is a contemporary literary festival in another town of Slovakia. Another big challenges, another big literary event is a Czechoslovak poetry competition, which we organized for 10 years. Then it is a literary dramaturgy in a festival Pohoda. Festival Pohoda, you can imagine a big multi-genre festival, mostly with a big band from all around the world, visiting 30,000 people, and we are doing the literary dramaturgy there. So it's 30,000 people who care about culture. So we have a 25 hours the program there, and even for a small poetry events you have like 300 people. And for a big, we are in a one tent in a big the biggest event, you have like 600, the full house tent. Then is a publishing house. BRAK, eponymic publishing house, started the activities in 2015, and I'm also the co-founder of a cultural magazine Capital, and the founder of the Flat Festival, Cesprach, which means across the doorstep. I will tell you more about later. BRAK Bratislavský knižný festival, or BRAK Bratislava Book Festival, as I mentioned, was established in 2013 with the aim of creating space for independent bookmaker. It was the aim of the festival is still to be an incubator for innovation and amplify the importance of mostly small publishers, as we see the small publisher as an acceleration and the most progressive part of the book industry. And we would love to, we love their non-commercial approach and high product quality of their book. You probably know how the small publishing, or it consists mostly of one or two people, usually a family or something, and they're doing great stuff. We have 40 or 50 or 60 of them from Czech and Slovak mostly, but also other countries. The program of the festival is focused on the certain curated theme, which is before was melancholy, new folklore, landscape, and so on and so on. And we love to, as probably all the festivals, so it's nothing special, but of course we are overlapping and combining the literature with all sort of another arts, such as music, film, theater, multimedia performances, fine arts, exhibition, and so on. This was actually if you see the screen, this was the first date of our festival, which was supposed to be on the end of the May 2020, but we have to postpone it. I will tell you later more. Just first a short stop about another NGO I'm working on. This is the NGO Literary Club.sk, which is organizing around 100 literary events during the year. We are organizing this Czechoslovak poetry, and also the festival I mentioned. So this is the name of the NGO which is behind all this. Just briefly about this Flat Festival, because it affected this kind of the festival affected the most, because this festival was built to be closer, physically closer to people, because it was happening in a regular apartment, actually at home of people, because in a communist era, the flat or apartment was a cultural and also educational institution. There were presentations, there were theaters, there were concerts, and we were by this festival we are acknowledging this, but also trying to push it a bit further in nowadays, but still celebrating the freedom of speech. This is the last thing I was mentioning was the Capital, which is the journal. And with this monthly journal, we are still printing the monthly journal Capital. So it affected this as well. So we had to move it to a electronic area, to be more virtual. This Capital magazine is critical insight. We are giving critical insight into social and cultural phenomena at home and abroad, and bring mostly the leftist perspective into them, which is not so popular here. And also we are publishing publishing books and organizing events throughout the year. March to the New Reality. This is the title, which actually was a big hit for us. It struck really hard to the culture. Since 15th of March, in Slovakia was just shut down. Every culture event just shut down. Really, from nowhere. It was the first we hit. So they were closed. They closed every theater, cinemas, even poetry authors reading for 8 people. Even we have positivity of, I don't know, 10 people in the whole country. So, but the perspective was changing, as you probably know. So it was a really big shock. We have no idea what's going to happen, but also the reaction, we were waiting for the reaction from the stakeholders, from the donors. But I think they did a great job here in Slovakia. They adapted really quickly, as shows the another slides, because we think that, as Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent that survives, but it's most adaptable that survives. And that's how we try to deal with the situation. So when I said it was on 15th of March when it started, we hit as a response with the poetry, and we organized the poetry festival in 12 days, I guess. It was poems in the quarantine. It was the name. We think that the poetry readings suits this the first of the days of the situation the most. Someone here said the nice words I really like. Something like a new intimacy was established, I guess. So, and we consider the poets as the most sensible literary species for recognizing and naming changes. So we called 10 poets from Slovakia and 10 poets from Czech Republic, and organized the literary poetry festival. And it was a big success. It suits the poetry, as I mentioned, really well. They were reciting, the poets were reciting their poems from their home. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and it gets a big success. Also, like many views. It looks like this. This is the visual of the online poetry festival, which we organized really quickly. It wasn't actually even 12 days. It was just couple of days, as you see. Poetry as a response. With the organization Literary Club.sk, as I mentioned, we are doing literary events, all sorts of performances, discussions, concerts, critical discussions, more than 100 a year. And we didn't stop. We tried to find the most suitable environment for the discussion and for these events. And the opportunity was to call maybe the host from abroad. So this is one example of what we did. We call it the Literary Club at your home, and we were book launching one Polish writer, the translation of in Czech. So we had a Czech actress reading it. We asked really famous Polish band to record for us an exclusive video clip. Band is called Sutari, and so this was one example when actually we seized the current situation as an opportunity, and we try to connect even everybody's at home. Try to connect the people from across the country, even abroad. But we seized every opportunity to organize something publicly, and the first opportunity came on the 21st of May. So as you see, you probably know these kind of events really well. So we had to follow all the restrictions and social distancing and face masks. But people, this was also the book launch of a poetry, and it was full. We actually couldn't let people in, because people are really hungry after a couple of weeks at home, or because it was lockdown. It was really easy. It was actually, this event was supposed to be online, but I'm not sure how it was your government, but ours was really chaotic. So they just tell us, I don't know, 2 days. 2 days. We had just 2 days to prepare it, so we just seized the opportunity and we organized this. But since the March, we streamed every event, because I think it's a new reality. Literary stage at Pohoda. The Pohoda, as I mentioned, was the biggest festival here. For 30,000 visitors from all around the globe, but it profiled itself as a multi-genre, and we are with our organization doing the literary dramaturgy. So we were actually waiting how also the big festival such as Pohoda will deal with the situation, because we heard that Glastonbury was postponed another year. Even this year is not, I think, Glastonbury organizing, and many others around Europe were cancelled. But Pohoda tried to do it as they call it, Pohoda in the air, and we also had a couple of events there, but we didn't have the budget as such as Pohoda with the sponsors, and so we were watching closely how like really big professionals with the budget are doing it, and they had like really great productions where they had many people with many professionals with professional cameras, professional studios. They had it looks like this, because usually in a normal times they are on the airport, but and it was also in the airport, but the airport was empty, so it's just emptiness around, but with the professional lighting and the professional cameras, and even the balloons, as you see. So this is something we couldn't do by ourselves. We don't have this kind of money and budget and stuff. This is our program actually. This is the actor from Slovak National Theatre. He was reading some texts for our program.
František, if you can also slowly conclude.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, it's already 17 minutes.
I'm sorry, I bore myself really, but okay, I will just really quickly tell you about. So this was our response to the Flat Festival. We also hired the professionals. We built a studio, and we actually called also people from. This is the writer from America, Jan Novak. So we also try to seize as an opportunity. We build a professional studio, and this is the festival BRAK. BRAK was the theme of the festivals was new folklore. Actually, it was kind of symbolic, because we seize this this new time as a new folklore and confronting with the traditional or with the normal times. And what we did, we actually is what every probably other festival did as well. But we had really we were happy to fit in just 3 days where we really can do the festival also offline. But we didn't know it on Monday that what's going to happen on Friday. But so we were tensed. It was really stressful. But finally, we built this kind of venues, couple of, and mostly put it outside in exterior. So this is just couple of pics. And we also organized during the BRAK conference called Crisis as an Opportunity. We asked the book professional how they see the situation from their point of view, economic, political, personal perspective. And from this conference, we took also the theme for the next festival, which is this year, and this is a bibliodiversity, which is a really important for me, this idea. And you can see probably bibliodiversity is a cultural diversity applied to the world of books. So this is from me. Thank you for listening and watching, and see you soon in another rooms.
Thank you so much.
That's a great feedback to
your presentation. Which I agree that it's great locations and very interesting formats that you shared with us that really show how creative we can be in the times of lockdowns and how creative we can be with hybrid formats. And so thank you again, Lyndsey, Swati, and František, for sharing your expertise and sharing your experiences. It's really inspiring to see, how many formats already exist and how many formats have already been created by the professionals in this sphere. And therefore, I would like to invite the participants to the next part of our program, which is working in small groups. And now we will have only 2 topics instead of 3 as usual. And the first one will be the peculiarities of hybrid. What should we take into account when planning a hybrid format? What about the organizing event itself? The moderator of this group will be,
and the second group is new roles.
What new partners should be engaged into to the planning of a hybrid format? What new roles should be created in teams? And this have been discussed during this presentation as well as during the aquarium, that new formats predict that there are new experts coming to support us with these formats, new partners coming to support us with these formats. So as usual, I will just briefly share my screen to remind you how to find or where to find the sessions that that we are moving in. And I will invite you, Lyndsey, also to join, the discussion of your liking and bring some of your expertise to this. I think especially you will have a lot to share in regard to the new roles, but also to the peculiarities of hybrid. Both are fine. So here I'm sharing my screen now, and here, as always, sessions to the left, and there are new roles and the peculiarities of hybrid that you can join now for 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, we will be waiting for you back, not at the stage, but at the general session. Here, the first block in sessions is general sessions, and we will wait for you there for the final contentual round and sharing the results of your discussions. So please have nice discussions in your groups. Thank you for being with us.